What an intro. Not much to live up to, huh? Hi, I'm Alicia, and I'm an engineering manager at Instant.io.
And I'm Martha. I'm a senior engineer at Instant.io. I've worked across the tech stack at B2B startups for the last 5 years. At Instant.io, we're building an incident management platform.
That means waking you up when things go wrong. Yeah? Cool. Oh, now I've got two things to hold. Yeah? That means waking you up when things go wrong and providing tools to help you resolve your problems quickly. I've worked with this kid for about 2 years now.
The biggest project we've worked on together has been starting, running, and tearing down a team, with me as the tech lead and Alicia as engineering manager.
We think that we're a little bit of a dream team. Today, we're going to take you through the process of spinning up and shutting down a team.
You'll leave with a blueprint for spinning up tactical project teams with a clear purpose and knowing the signals that show it's time to say goodbye.
Most of us are aware of the forming, storming, norming, and performing phases of a team's life cycle. You start a team, you hit some road bumps, you get into the swing of things, and eventually reach a stage of high performance. Well, hopefully. And as an EM, you're probably familiar with helping teams navigate through these phases, repeating the cycle through common team changes like hiring.
But what we want to focus on today isn't the cycle of an ongoing team, but it's the entry and exit points. The most important part of a flight is the takeoff and the landing, and we want to nail this when it comes to our engineering teams. At Instant.io, we've managed to consistently ship great product at pace, which we've achieved by ensuring our engineering time is focused on the most impactful thing all of the time. That means taking bets on new teams and being comfortable with shutting teams down at the right time.
Today, we're going to be going over what it takes to build a team with purpose from scratch, how to make sure that your team are running smoothly as quickly as possible, and what it really takes to shut down a team. So what do you start with?
So we start with an idea. It could be a new product, a feature, or an initiative that's not just going to slot into your existing teams day to day.
We're talking about a meaningful chunk of scope. Something that would take your team away from their existing focus, something that would be taking a couple of months at least. You might have been presented this idea by senior leadership or founders and asked to make it happen. So what do you do next?
Execution is everything. So you're taking a risk and you're spending time away from the thing you know you can do. This can be really dangerous. But great execution will make the difference in your success. We're applying classic product principles here. Getting something in the hands of customers as quickly as possible is the goal.
The steps you're about to take will play a big part in determining the success of this project. So let's throw everything we can at it to make sure it goes right. For us, this was status pages. This started as just an idea in early 2023. It was a big pivot from our existing incident management product, the usual work that we knew we could do really, really well. It's also quite a challenging market. Like everybody who needs a status page probably already has one.
So this was a really big risk. Thinking you can build something better than what's already out there is dangerous. So if we're going to succeed, we need to verify it really quickly. So how do we make it happen? This is our first big decision, so let's consider all of the options available to us. We could outsource it, run it as a project in an existing team, or create a new team from scratch. And to be clear, we're not talking about hiring or changing our resourcing. We're just redistributing the engineers we have available to us.
We don't really want to outsource this. This is a project that we're super invested in, and we want to keep it close to home to make sure it goes well. So we're either going to start a team from fresh or use an existing team. For our status page product, we decided to spin up a new team. Let's talk about why.
So using an existing team can often seem a lot easier. You know it works already. But if you're taking a bet on something, a new team has a lot of benefits. Focus. Existing teams come with baggage. That's backlogs, customer asks, other teams relying on them as a source of knowledge. And it's really, really hard to get away from all of that, but it will massively get in the way of pace when you're building your new project. If you want your new team to have their blinkers on, they need a single goal, and they need to avoid all outside input until they've got something in customers' hands.
And flexibility. Existing teams have set ways of working already, and it can be really hard to disrupt them. For your project to go well, a bit of breathing space from your existing process is important, allowing you to step out of the box and focus on what makes sense. It also brings a bit of freshness. We all know engineers love a greenfield project, something they can build and create themselves. It's a great way to energize your engineers and to help them ship quickly.
So this new team doesn't need to start with a timeline and an end date. And whilst we'll talk later about winding teams down, we didn't start our status pages team planning for it to die. But it is sensible to go into this knowing that this team might not last forever. So we've decided to assemble a new team with the single goal of shipping our product. Who's in it?
When you're building a team from scratch, you need to think about a few things. What are the technical complexities of this project? Taking into account the size and scope of what you're building, how many engineers make sense? And finally, who has the skills to fulfill these requirements?
You're in a good position with this project because you've got a really clear remit for your team. That means you can get specific about your technical requirements and shape your team to fit them. So these are a few prompts to get you started. Do you need an infrastructure setup? We did. We needed to be able to host our status pages globally for our customers and support a new level of traffic that we weren't used to, the world of B2C.
And what level of autonomy do you need your engineers to have? At the start of a big project, there's a lot of ambiguity. We needed our engineers to be confident figuring things out themselves.
Is your project back-end or front-end heavy? For us, there was complexity on both sides. We wanted a high level of front-end quality to compete in the market, but we also needed this to be robust and performant. Once you've got answers to these questions, you can start to think about what roles or experience you need to move forward.
When you're building a team, it's vital that you're balancing the priorities of the organization against the needs of your project. As an EM, focusing on the wider context and not just your team will massively level up your impact. Think about the technical requirements across engineering and the other requirements across product. Who do you need to make sure that those things still stay on track? Let's go over what we needed. Every team needs a tech lead. Someone who can communicate well, has good product thinking, can drive delivery, and has enough technical chops to make the right calls. In our case, Martha had exceptional product thinking, could lead complex projects well, but she hadn't been a tech lead before. We needed to ensure that she had the support she needed for the deeper technical decisions.
So now we know we need someone who can think about the infrastructure of our pages. In comes Lawrence, one of our staff engineers with many years of experience to support me and the team with making the right decisions. Once we're set up and running, we should be good to go, so it's unlikely he'll need to stay in the team long term. But embedding him within the team means we can focus his time and gain confidence in our technical decisions day to day.
And lastly, you're probably going to need some engineers, right? It's better at first to underload your team until you have a better understanding of how much work there really is. It's easy to add to the team later if you need to, and you don't really want people twiddling their thumbs when they can be contributing to other initiatives in the business. We decided to start with 2 more engineers, Isaac and Dimitra. Isaac ships lightning fast. We wanted to prove out our ideas quickly, and we knew that Isaac would be able to bring that speed for us. We also knew we wanted our status pages to look great. And in comes Dimitra, an engineer with an excellent eye for UX and product details. So we have our team. What are we actually doing?
We need to define our strategy. We've already said we're coming from a place with countless proven products already on the market. And as we've said, it's incredibly dangerous to be overly optimistic and assume our product will be special without being clear about why. If you're going to deliver a new product or feature that has a chance of succeeding, you need to know your strategy and get your team laser focused on it.
This is where it's really important that your team is bought in, and strategy is something that you should be defining together. The decision to build this product may have come from above you, but how you do it is up to you and the team. If everyone is involved in defining your direction, You'll get on the same page early and be able to ship much faster as a result. So how'd you get there?
The first thing you should do is nothing at all. It can be so tempting to dive straight into your code editor, but resist it. Book out a week to figure things out. If you can be in person, great. Cancel your meetings. It shouldn't feel like day-to-day work. So let's talk about what you'll do in that week. Know what you're up against. This is all about competitor analysis. Do this with your team. Get to know how other products feel, what they're good at, and where they fall down. Go beyond the obvious competitors. For status pages, we went really broad. We wanted something that felt more user-friendly and less techy, so we looked at home Wi-Fi providers and government status pages. Lean on your product manager to run these sessions. This should be something they're used to, and it's a great way for them to align with the team on what's out there.
And set your principles. This is key. Defining a framework will help you make decisions with high confidence and speed. As an EM, you want to give your engineers the tools to say yes or no independently, and know that your team will make high-quality decisions. This is what makes you impactful and fast. Define a set of principles for how you want to build your product. Keep these incredibly simple and clear. You can't make your product amazing in every single way. It's important to build something quickly, but you want it to be appealing. What gets you there?
So for us, there was 2 things we thought we could bring to the market. Firstly, a high bar for design, a status page that looks and feels great. We thought it wasn't out there. Status pages are public, and people want a sexy one. This felt like something we knew we could do, and we could bring something fresh to the market. And secondly, cohesion with our existing incident management product. Status pages are naturally intertwined with incident management. You're not using them as if everything is fine. A status page solution that integrates with this was value that we could uniquely provide. That looks like updating your status page directly from Slack, or being nudged to resolve the status page incident when the impact is over. As a tech lead, it's your responsibility to keep your team laser-focused on your principles. When scoping out these projects, ensure that your team are highly aligned with the strategy and question anything that doesn't get you there.
And lastly, don't build in isolation. It's easy to stay in a mode of focus with your team, but it's important to use the people around you to help drive your project forward with any useful input and feedback that they might have. Find design partners. You're building a new product, which means stepping away from your regular release cycle that you're used to. For us, this was quite painful. Our team is motivated by customer love and getting people using our products. Design partners are super important. They are highly engaged customers who can give early feedback on designs and prototypes to ensure that you're going in the right direction and focused on solving the problems that they have. Your product manager should be managing this relationship, and your engineers should be focused on shipping, but bring them along to some customer calls. Help them to stay invested in what they're delivering for our customers.
So now we're a few weeks in, we've assembled our team and we've defined our strategy. We've got our first wireframes, so we know the direction we're going in.
Let's talk a little bit about how you can get your team running smoothly, quickly. You'll need some time to gel as a team and figure out how to work together, going through the classic team cycle of forming, storming, and norming. It's important to understand and acknowledge when you're in a forming stage and to navigate this phase with purpose. That starts with pausing on process. It's easy to want to introduce all the processes you have for your other teams into your new team immediately. But I want you to think about what is actually useful for your team as it stands. In our case, at first, we needed whiteboard time. We needed to figure out what we were building, and our normal team rituals wouldn't have really been valuable for that. You need to be constantly assessing what you need for your team and introduce your normal ways of working as and when it makes sense to. This might look like being comfortable without a roadmap until your MVP is built.
Find your groove. This means accelerating as quickly as you can through the awkward stage. We want to ship great product at pace, which means fast and accurate decision-making, so our team needs to be really aligned. There's a few things we did to get into our groove more quickly. Feedback culture. As a tech lead, you're in a great position to lead by example. Building an environment of regular, direct feedback will allow your team to identify and squash micro problems before they start to impact you. As a lead, push your team to give low-stakes feedback directly in a relaxed and positive way. Encourage regular one-to-ones across engineering. Everyone should be chatting together. And start simple to build up your rhythm. Your first few projects need to be really small and achievable to give you and the team the chance to work out how you work together in a low-risk environment. Once you're happy with that, you can start to add more complexity.
And lastly, try to amplify the small wins. It's important to understand what motivates your team. Our team was driven by shipping to customers, and Status Page was our first real experience of moving away from our normal daily releases. Maintaining energy through that was really challenging. When there are no obvious wins, create them. We did this by amplifying milestones we wouldn't normally pay attention to, like finishing a really complicated component or showing prototypes to our design partners. Celebrate these in any way that you can. For us, we did a lot of team socials, like making pasta, but also be sure to shout about these wins to the wider business. Keep them invested, and also bring some encouragement for your team.
So it's always sensible to assume that your team won't last forever. Even if you continue to work full-time on this product, people leave, priorities change, and we should be building in the knowledge that we'll be fine if that happens. Engineering decisions should reflect this, and as a tech lead, you need to be challenging your team on the technical decisions that affect the longer-term trajectory of this project. So what does that look like? Build versus buy. As a tech lead or EM, you should have a much better grasp of business priorities when it comes to money versus engineering time than most people in your team. For complex engineering issues, push your team to weigh up whether a ready-made solution could help them. It won't always be clear to them. For us, that was regional support and large traffic volumes. Status pages needed to be accessed globally, quickly, and we chose to use Vercel and Next.js's global caching to get around this, getting a tool built by subject matter experts with little maintenance cost on our side. And don't reinvent the wheel. Greenfield projects are really exciting, and it's so easy to get carried away. I'm sure we're all familiar with spooky areas of our code base where people once decided to adopt new technologies, and they now seem super scary. Unfortunately, tech leading means you need to be the boring voice in the room and ensure that if your team suggests jumping to the latest language or technology, it's for a real business reason, which will accelerate your project. The pain of maintaining a fresh new thing that looks nothing like the rest of your code base will bite you later if you're not careful.
And avoid knowledge silos. Whilst your new code base might feel simple and intuitive to you, when new technologies are involved, it can seem really daunting to other people outside of your team. It's important to keep other engineers in the loop. Share your technical scope and docs publicly. Have lunch and learns. You'll find that engineers are really interested in how you built things, and it lowers the fear factor. So things are starting to feel normal now. You have a team, a product plan, a technical strategy, you're moving, shipping, gelling as a team. We had kicked off in January and started to hit this mode about a month in. A couple of months later, we shipped our MVP to our customers, and we're seeing our first status pages out in the wild. They looked pretty amazing. By July, we had about 40 customers using our pages, and things were generally feeling pretty good. And it's really easy to stay in this state of bliss, ignoring the small issues that seem to pop up around the edges. When you're in this mode, I'd really urge you all to notice the pain and be aware of the pain points within your team and the wider business. Recurring issues your team are having could be the first signs to indicate the end of your team's journey is near. Be sure to be looking out for the right ones. Some questions that you might want to be asking yourself are,
does your roadmap feel forced? When you've got engineers that want to ship impactful code at 1,000,000 miles an hour, you should sense people being a little bit twitchy when it feels like the exciting stuff on your roadmap is running out. And what type of feedback are you getting from your customers? When this starts to lean more user-specific rather than things your whole customer base is asking for, it's a great signal that your product is meeting the needs of most, and any additional features are niche or edge casey.
And is this project the most impactful thing? What else is going on in the business? Can you see important projects feeling under-resourced? As a leader, you should be thinking about engineering as a whole, not just the scope of your team. If what they're working on is a higher priority, how can you and your team support that? Don't be this guy. As an EM, it's really easy to be glued to your team, but it's super important to be org-aware and one step ahead of what's coming down the line. Be sure you can understand what is going on around you. You should be receiving signals from multiple layers within your organization. Listen to your team first. What are your team moaning about? What are the recurring issues that are coming up for you? You could fix each of these individually, but you should be treating team signals as canary in the coal mine. When these issues come up, be sure to think, is it even worth fixing them? Or will you be faced with the same problems again in the next 3 to 6 months? And use other engineering managers as a team. Gain context on other challenges they're having so you can weigh up how they compare to your own. And finally, look to the business to understand the broader goals. Think about whether your team is contributing to them, and if they're not, what can you do to change that?
For status pages, we started to notice this when engineers on our team were feeling like the work we were doing wasn't the most impactful, and we'd started to discuss what else we could own. We'd already proven with status pages that we could successfully build out a new product, so as a business, we decided to start focusing on building out our on-call offering. So we decided to sunset the team.
Let's talk a little bit about how to do this gracefully. When you're shutting down a team, the first thing you need to figure out is, where do the people go? Once you've decided to sunset your team, it's better to act quickly when making these changes. If you can be more impactful elsewhere, don't sit on that for too long. Work with other business leaders to make a plan and consider whose experience is needed where. What career opportunities are available in the rest of the business? And what do individuals on your team want?
Who owns the product? So you've taken a bet and hopefully it's worked, but it's really important that you don't stop supporting your customers or making space for innovation. You need a really clear definition of ownership, including where does your customer feedback go, who manages the roadmap, who handles incidents, and where do people escalate if they don't have all the context?
We learnt the hard way with this one, and it took us a few iterations to get it right. So learn from our mistakes.
Make sure that you're intentional. Put time into handovers and figure out where there are knowledge gaps. We held technical training and incident game days when it was clear that the new team didn't feel confident when implementing complex changes. As a tech lead, you're responsible for having a bird's eye view of the technical landscape of your project. So you need to ensure that any new owners have a really clear picture of the code base and any problems that might arise.
And be loud. It will take folks outside of your team, folks like customer success and sales, a while to get used to the change of ownership and where they might go to get support. As an EM, encourage people to redirect questions to the new ownership rather than answering it themselves. And be sure to regularly broadcast the new state of the world across the business until it feels more understood.
And be kind. Be conscious that this can feel really scary and daunting for a new team. They've been thrown in at the deep end, and they're yet to have a good grasp on the problem space. So empathy is essential. Be really generous with your time early on through pairing and sharing knowledge. Avoid doing things independently just because it feels faster short term. So your project might be done, but you shouldn't stop innovating there. Make sure that the new team are continuing to address customer feedback and have space to experiment with new features. In the time since we've sunset our team, by far the biggest positive signal that we've done this effectively has been the new team building out their own features. This really proved to us that our handover was successful. Page view analytics is just one example of that. So we can monitor traffic on your status page and alert you proactively when there's a spike in views. This means our customers have been alerted of incidents before they've realized there's an issue, or maybe they've been made aware that a problem is wider in scope than they initially thought.
So let's go over what we've talked about today. Start fresh. When execution is everything, use new teams as a tool to deliver at pace. And form with purpose. Drive for high alignment through clear strategy defined together as a team.
And finally, know when to say goodbye. Look for signals that your team's impact could be diminishing and be really comfortable with the idea of sunsetting your team when the time is right. That's all from us. Thanks for listening.
Come say hi at our booth.